So a bunch of the community English casters are traveling and they're abroad doing something else. So because of that, there's not as much English coverage today as there usually is. There's not as many streams going on, which is a bit of a shame, but regardless, we're getting on into this. We're getting into game number 1 of our round of 16 match, and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the blue Zerg, representing Talon Esports. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponents. We have the South Korean Protoss, the red Protoss player representing himself, currently teamless, deserving to be on a team. It is Stats. As here we go, we do have a 15-15 opener out of Dark. It is a very safe way to open up. Dark has been sprinkling this in a little bit more frequently as of late. The way this works is that you're able to get your hatchery on time before the probe arrives. That's what's important about it. The probe arrives, hatchery is already on location. It is not going to be denied. We aren't forced to take the unnatural natural. The spawning pool is up next, and we get delayed gases. This is the downside. The plus side of this opener is that we are able to expand where we need to. The downside is gases are late, which means later ling speed, later aggression, which is why it's a very safe opener from the Zerg player. And Stats should be feeling pretty comfortable. I mean, uncomfortable with the fact that he won't be able to be as aggressive as he would like to be, but overall, no aggression from Dark. So Stats, he's going for a gate expand. Now the question becomes, will Stats go for the same build? Now, if you were here for game 1 and game 2, you would know that Stats did go for, an all-in, both games against Rex. He went for a Stargate opener. This pylon looks like a Stargate pylon. So he did go for a Stargate Oracle opener into a third base, into 6 gate Blink Stalkers, without a Forge, without a Robo, with a proxy pylon. He did it both in game 1 and in game number 2. Again, just a setup for, like, very committed, pretty all-in. In both games, or in game 1, he dealt a lot of damage and eventually transitioned into Storm. In game 2, early on, Stats realized that it wasn't going to kill Rex, so he had a much faster transition into a Forge, into Robo, into Storm, into a 4th base. So we see that Stats, he isn't like stubborn with this build if he does it again. He's very flexible with it, and he's willing to transition out and work towards a longer game once he recognizes that it won't work. Once he recognizes that it won't kill his opponent. So we'll see if Stats goes for it again. We'll keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, Dark is a more aggressive player. He's a little more unpredictable. Dark, especially in ZvP, is very chaotic and very aggressive. This is why that we love casting Dark versus Hero, for example, because Hero is just as chaotic and just as unpredictable as Dark, so it just leads to like really messy games. It leads to a lot of metagaming, a lot of nonsense. Always a lot of fun when they face off against each other. Here, I think Dark is more comfortable against Stats, just because Stats isn't as dynamic as Hero. So Dark is most likely going to be in the driver's seat. And we'll see if Stats can react and respond to the chaos that is Dark. Let up say Threat in the Shade. Lings are amassing. We're making a decent amount of Lings just to shut down the Adepts and to go for a counterattack. Oracle has arrived. As we mentioned, it was a Stargate opener into Oracles. We do check the third base. Lings, they collapse on the Adept, and they do get one. One Adept does go down. Third base is being taken. Behind this, Stats getting his own third up and running. And so far, Stats hasn't dealt any economic damage yet. On top of that, did lose an Adept, which means Lings, they have map control. That map control, they're looking for that Adept, and it looks like they will come across it. Yeah, they get us around. The Adept is going to be hunted down. At the same time, Double Oracle heads towards that natural. Queens are in position. Yeah, the Queens are here. Good stutter stepping. It looks like we lose 2 drones, but only 2 workers. The Oracles, at least they survive. They do get out of there. Good defense out of Dark, but last Stats can always come back in, and he does get a 3rd drone. Oh, he gets a 3rd. Almost a 4th. And with that, the spores are done. The aggression has subsided. We do see Dark going for a counterattack. We mentioned before he caught out those Adepts, and now he's going for the 3rd. That's a lot of Lings. We get us around. The Adepts are going to be going down. Both of them will. Oracle should be racing back home. We get one, and we're barely going to get the other. Adepts, they zone away the Lings. Again, good trade from Dark. We'll be forced back. And now we have our transition. Stats is going for something different. This time, it is a Twilight Council, but that is a Forge. This is not the same build that Stats was doing against Rex. So we're getting into new territory here. +1, a blink on the horizon for Stats. Overlord is going to be shut down. Behind this, we do have a bit of a gateway explosion. That's going to be 5 gates in total. Interesting. We'll see how many more get thrown down. They move out. Darky does get supply blocked after losing that Overlord. He's going for a plus on melee. Roach Warren is on the way at a reasonable time. There was a 5-minute Roach Warren. And with that, Dark, he's just getting into his own Ling Roach army. Droning up behind this as well. So nothing aggressive out of Dark yet. Nothing to really ring any alarm bells. Just responding, playing standard, being active with his Lings. He is moving out once again for a surround. Trying to catch out these units. Oh, does come in from behind. He gets us around. He will clean up the Stalkers. Big pickoffs here. As we get 1, 2 Stalkers and both Adepts. It was a bit of a costly trade losing all those Lings, but it was minerals for gas. That's why it's a better trade for Dark. Behind this is getting his 4th base. He's drone up to 66. This is the next power spike for Dark. He's drone up to 3 base saturation. The question becomes, does he drone up any further, or do we focus on maxing out on Lingbane Roach Ravager? As Dark is double expanding, getting his 4th and his 5th base. Meanwhile, behind this, 3 more gateways on the way. So we had 5, now that we're going up to 8. Very aggressive. 8 gates on the way here for Stats. We're reinforcing. Pylon gets thrown down on the front lines. Stats trying to reinforce here. Now, he is not all in. He is taking up behind this. We have a Robo, Forge, and a Templar Archives on the way. This is aggressive, but Stats really just trying to assert himself and trying to deny this base. The goal here to deny some of these bases and to trade with the army while we refine ourselves back at home. Another big warp in. Stats, he does catch a Ling. He doesn't know. I was about to check. Stats, he hasn't seen that hatchery. It's so exposed. It's so vulnerable. It's so greedy from Dark. And Stats could deny it, but he doesn't know it's there. Doesn't know it's been taken. Because why would it? For now, he's just being as assertive as possible, trading with Lings, denying creep, keeping the creep at bay. And Dark, he hasn't been droning. I mentioned before that his power spike was droning up to 66. He droned up to 67, so 1 extra drone. And he's just hyper fixated here on Lingbane Roach Ravager. He's maxing out. +2 is on the way. Baneling speed is on the way. We'll see if Dark does drone up this 4th. Oracles are coming in. And Dark, he's pulling the trigger. Does get caught by the stasis. Will shut down the pylon. He gets away with the 5th. And what are we using the 5th for? Okay, for Larva, as we do make a wave of drones. So Dark, he was respecting the army. He was assuming that Stats was going all in. And that's a good thing for Stats. Because Dark doesn't commit, because he's droning, Stats, he gets away with posturing, basically. He was posturing, he was just faking out aggression. He backs off, taking a 4th base. We have Storm, +2, Immortal Production. We have so much tech on the way. It's about to finish up. Stats just needs to survive. He just needs to survive long enough to allow Storm to finish. And all these upgrades. Meanwhile, Dark is on a bit of a timer here. Will he hit before the upgrades finish, or will he focus on droning and try to catch back up and take an economic lead? We have 18 Banelings on the way. 5th base getting up and running. Droning up to 76. He isn't moving out. Storm is about to finish in a couple of seconds. We have an High Templar. We do. We have 4 High Templar ready. Stats, he has his Storms. Big stasis on the Lings. You can see Dark trying to bait out that Storm as well. Another stasis does go up. And there we go. The Storms on the Roaches, on the Ravagers. And we force Dark back. Again, this was a really close defense here from Stats, but he got away with it. Oh, he's getting away with it. Banelings are going for the mineral line. Big Storms on the Banelings. And the Banelings, they will not make it. Do we have to have one more? We don't. We don't have one more Storm. The Banelings, they get in. They take down the mineral line. 15 probes go down. One more storm is all we needed. Those Banelings, they were so low. Ay, ay, ay. And just like that, Dark, he cripples the economy of Stats. Stats now rebuilding, remaxing. We have Lings pushing in towards the right-hand side. There is a wall. Again, that was almost the perfect defense we were looking for. High Templar! Oh, that was two. Two High Templar just got picked up. Now, Stats isn't dead. He has to recover economically, and he did retain the Immortals, is what I will say. The Immortals have been retained. More Immortals are on the way. More High Templar are in production, plus 3 attack is also in production as well for Stats. He's still holding his own, but now he's stuck at home. Because of all those losses, he's stuck at home. He has to spend money rebuilding his economy instead of building up his army. And that means that Dark is left alone. And he's taking. He's droning, he's working on Infestation Pit, second Evo Chamber, upgrades, Hive Tech, spreading creep. After that attack, because Stats is stuck at home, Dark can just focus on recovering and building himself up. So we have a little bit of a lull period here. Banelings, they get caught out. They get caught out. Another base is on the way here for Stats. Dark getting ready for a run by towards the left-hand side. Getting ready for his own push. Dark has maxed out. Hive is halfway done. Banelings is making their way towards that fourth. We do have plenty in position though. Yeah, we have Archons, we have cannons, shield batteries. This position is pretty heavily fortified. Like, we cannot break through. The right-hand side is a little bit more vulnerable, but it looks like Stats, the name of the game right now, is to fortify these bases and then Sky Toss. It looks very similar to what we saw versus Rex. I'm assuming that, but we'll see as Stats has maxed out. He's at 200 supply. We catch out some Lings. We have not thrown down a Stargate or a Fleet Beacon. Instead, what are we working with? 4 High Templar. That's an okay amount of Storms. Only 4 High Templar. A good amount of Immortals. We catch out more Lings, and we're pushing. Dark, can we hold? Likewise, he has a massive amount of Road Ravager. They try to roll in. Good Storms! But we're running out. I think we have 2 more Storms left. 2 more Storms remaining. Stats is gaining ground. Dark getting ready for a surround. He's coming in! We do have our Storms, but I believe we are running out of Storms. The final ones have been thrown down, and we collapse on the army, but GG gets called. There's too much here. Stats, he breaks through, and he does take game number 1. Whew. GG. Oh my god. GG, well played. Stats, he was able to recover, able to max out. I was worried he did not have enough High Templar. He only had 4, but he was able to trade well enough, able to break through. And Dark could not keep up. Not with Lingbane Road Ravager. GG. This actually reminds me of Stats versus Solar. If you were here for it, Stats did take a game off of Solar last week in ESL Open Cup Americas, if I remember correctly, with the same style, where we had the same situation, where Solar was stuck on Lingbane Road Ravager. And he came up against this death bull of an army with Archons, with Storm, with Immortals, and Stats out-traded him and broke through. And we saw that immediately the next game, the change that Solar made was he, instead of going Lingbane Roach Ravager, he went Ling Roach into Hydras, and then into Lurkers. And upon getting into Lurkers, he forced out a different transition. He forced out Sky Toss from Stats, and things went a little bit differently. But that's how we saw Solar adjust. How will Dark adjust? Here we go. The shadow flying around always makes me think it's the Scatter main base. Yo, I hate the shadow when playing. The shadow is brutal. Yo. Here we go, and spawning in gaining ground. Dark. Okay. Spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Solaris, we have our South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg representing Talon Esports. Down to this series, can he fight back? It is Dark. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the red Protoss representing himself. Currently teamless, but as you can see, deserving to be on a team. Hopefully, he gets picked up. It is Stats. Here we go. Here we go, as we do have this time a hatch gas pool. This time Stats is able to delay and deny that natural base. Dark has to expand elsewhere, and the opener is going to be a little bit more uncomfortable for Dark this time. Let's go. Is going to be a little bit more uncomfortable, as Stats is going to be able to delay the expansion, or deny the expansion, force it at the third base. But the plus side here for Dark is that he can go into a more economic opener, and he can be more aggressive. Hatch gas pool, this time no delayed gases, we're going to have fast rolling speed, and on a map like Solaris with these speed zones, Dark, he can really have his way here. Whether it's with Ling aggression, roaches, even waddling queens across the map, I do feel like Dark is going to be feeling a lot more at home here on Solaris. Let's go. Let us go. As for now, we're just getting into our openers themselves. And what I love about that last game is that Stats, he did show off a different build. Remember, he went for the same kind of 3-base all-in against Rex, game 1 and game 2. What I love about game 1 against Dark is that it looked the same. If you remember, he had the proxy pylon, he was being assertive with stalkers, but he backed off, right? He was basically faking out an all-in while he was getting away with all this tech in the back line, getting away with Immortal production and Storm and Archons and upgrades. So I love the fake out in the beginning of game 1. So we'll see what else Stats has up his sleeve. For now, Stargate opener. Stargate into Oracles, into a third base. The opener itself is looking standard, and we've seen the same opener every game so far from Stats against Dark and Rex. It's the follow-up that we're really looking and paying close attention to, with whether or not we get the Forge, how committed we are, how many gateways we go up to. That's what we are going to be looking at. Meanwhile, Dark is going to be droning, getting his third. Ling speed is on the way. Again, far faster than game 1 because of the faster gas geyser. So Dark can be more aggressive and more assertive. Ling does slip into the main. We get a scout of the tech. Dark is aware of the Oracle opener. He is aware. He does know. Back at home, Dark already amassing his Lings in time for Ling speed. And the goal here is to shut down these Adepts. 2 Adepts are moving out across the map. This can be a risky maneuver here by Stats. He has to preserve them. He has to keep them alive. Has to be very careful with them, as they do threaten his shade, and we should not be committing. There we go. We do go for the cancel, and Stats backs off. He's racing back home, getting in position to expand and take the third. Meanwhile, the Lings are looking for the Adepts, and they do catch one of them. But we do shade away just in time. At the same time, we do have the Oracle across the map. We get 2 drones. 2 workers go down. Base has been thrown down as well. Dark, he collapses on the Adepts. And he will get both of them. Both Adepts will fall. Oracle just now comes out. Not in time to save the Adepts, but in time to save the base. As the Lings have to retreat. Behind this, oh, that is an early Roach Warren. Uh-oh. So, for those who are curious, when it comes to timings, this was a 4-minute 10, just over 4-minute Roach Warren timing against a Stargate opener. Unnecessary. You do not need a Roach Warren until around 5 minutes, because what are you defending against? There's no Glaive Adepts, there's no Charge Lots, there's no Stalkers, there's nothing ground base. These Roaches, if I was casting a different player, I would say maybe it's a safe response, but this is an aggressive one, 100%. We're cutting workers at 41, Creep is spreading, we catch an Oracle, and the Queens are walking. We're going for an all-in. The Queens are waddling across the map. Creep is being spread. The speed zones will help with this. And this is what we spoke about at the start of the game. With these speed zones on Solaris, Dark is so much more at home. We're going for the all-in. Queens are walking across the map. Roaches are amassing. Lings are flooding. And Stats isn't ready for this. 0 shield batteries. There we go. 1 shield battery now on the way. But Stats doesn't see this. He needs to scout the army. He spots some Lings, but that's not enough of a tell. Stats is working on a Forge, working on gateways. Stats, he has 4 Stalkers to defend and 2 Oracles. Ay, ay, ay. Trying to get a read on this. The Queens are now going to be spotted. Now we know what's going on. And again, one shield battery is not enough. Another pylon being thrown down. We catch the Stalkers. There is no blink. One Stalker falls. And there we go. We have shield batteries. We have cannons being thrown down at the natural. Stats, he's giving up on the third. Gives up on the third base. He evacuates. He knows he cannot hold. He cannot defend. He has to try to take his chances at the natural instead. Lings, they hit the third. Ravagers pushing forward. Going to try and bow down the shield batteries or even break through. There we go. Shield batteries going to be cancelled. Ooh, barely do survive. There we go. We cancel the cannon. Ravagers are pushing forward. Pylon is going to be targeted down. Oh, sorry, the Cybercore even. And with the death of that Cybercore, that means no more Stalkers. Blink is not going to be as impactful. I mean, we have some Stalkers to work with. Cybercore is being rebuilt. Gateways are depowered. The third base goes down. And Dark is trying to break through. Behind this, Lair is on the way. And I believe the Queens did walk back home. The Queens are back home. Lair is on the way. Dark, he's working on his next step, but he floods in. The wall is not a wall. Ooh. The pylon barely survives. Stats, he's kind of holding. Also, I assume the Queens went back home. They stuck around a little bit longer, but now they're backing off. Now the Queens are retreating, and we are droning. So, Dark, he's no longer going to try and break this. Stats, he has held on to that natural. And Dark, he's content with killing the third base and then droning. He's droning, he's resaturating. Bearing in mind, Dark is down in the economy, by the way. I'm concerned that Dark didn't do enough. I'm very concerned that Dark didn't do enough damage. He wants more. He wants to catch the Stalkers. Comes in for the surround. Catches the sentries at least. Gets a sentry. Almost a zealot. Almost a zealot. And behind this, Dark is going to try to recover. Stats still on a higher worker count. Again, a big shout to Stats for pulling away and evacuating that third base. Thankfully, he preserved all of his probes, so his worker count is still very healthy. But he needs that third base. It's now on the way. Dark, amassing overlords. Amassing overlords to get rid of the supply block. We do have the Hydrogen on the way here for Dark. So we're going into Ling Hydra. I like this choice. Ling Hydra can do quite well against a mass Stalker-based army, and it gives you access to Lurkers as well, which is what we were lacking in Game 1. Ling's going to be backing off. Stalker's being kept busy. Third base, still not quite done, still on the way, and we're working towards what looks to be Storm and Archons. We have the Temple Archives, we have Charge soon to be on the way, I imagine. Hydras are amassing. Now the question becomes, is Dark going to saturate his fourth? Dark, he's on 64 workers. He's about to be on 69. Nice. Now 70. So he is droning. He's working on the next step. Do we have an infestation pit? We do not. No infestation pit. So still focusing on just Hydras. Roach Hydra. Stats being as active as possible. Trying to get a read of what's going on. He has scouted the fourth. Is aware. But again, there's limited saturation here for Dark. Still focusing on Hydras. This is really risky out of stats, but he has to be active with these Stalkers. He has to try to gain some value with them. Storm is going to finish, though. And Stats, he's taking a fourth. A big moment here. Can he hold on to it? Can he get into a better economy? Tumor's going to be shut down. Dark knocking down these rocks. He drone up to 73. That's full base saturation. And yeah, we're shutting down these rocks. Dark, he's getting ready to push. Getting ready to move out. And what kind of defensive position do we have? We have one shield battery at the third. We have a couple of stasis traps. Not bad. Storm is done. How many High Templar? We have 4 High Templar. That'll be 1 Storm each at least. And here he comes. Dark, he's maxed out with Ling, Roach, Ravager, Hydra. We dive in forward stasis traps. They go off on a couple of Lings. Decent Storm. Good Storms here. They zone back the Hydras. No big connections yet, but we are buying time. And Stats, he needs that time right now. Another storm spent, only zoning, barely grazes the army. And we only have one storm left. Soon to be two. Again, the storm is a resource. And we can't be too wasteful with it. Oh my god, the High Templar. Oh! Oh my god. High Templar, they bait out a movement. They bait out some Hydras. They do go down. A couple of Stalkers full as well. At the same time, we do see Dark coming in from the right-hand side, catching the 4th base. Yeah, good storm here towards the left. It looks like Stats, he holds onto his 3rd, but the 4th base is soon to be broken. We have the overcharge, though, keeping those Stalkers alive. Stats, he's barely trying to force this back. He does defend towards the left. And here on the right-hand side with the warp in, we can hold. He recalls the base. We're going to barely hold on to it. The recall does finish in time. And Dark, he bled out a lot of units here. Looking at the battle report, Dark, he bled out 20 Hydras and 17 Roaches. And what did he really get? He got an Archon, he got 2 High Templar and 9 Probes. That was not a good trade for Dark. Stats, he did well holding and defending, but Dark is remaxing. He's coming in once again, this time focusing on the 4th base. He's going for the Nexus, and the Nexus will fall. Nexus gets picked off. We start a step forward. We get on top of the Immortal. Where are the Storms? We don't have any. We need more time. We need Storms, and without them, the Hydras are breaking through. They are breaking through. We have Roaches coming from behind. We focus on one of the High Templar, and we get a surround. It looks like it's just too much. Dark, he overwhelms. GG gets called, and Dark ties up the series 1-1. GG. GG. A very close initial defense from Stats, but as we saw, once you run out of Storm, we saw that the Ling Hydra was able to break through, come in from behind, and surround the army. Stats just needed a couple more seconds to build up energy on those High Templar. If he had that available, then maybe he's able to barely hold on again, but it was a difficult position after losing the 3rd. A very difficult position. With that, we're going to the ace match. Clearly, the maps have been important, and the next map is going to be on Hard Lead. Ooh, a very small map. Now, talking about Solaris and talking about the speed zones, there's a reason why Dark did go for the all-in there, did go for the Queen Walk, because the speed zones do allow for that to hit harder and faster. That is true. On the flip side, Hard Lead is also pretty good for Queen Walks, not because of speed zones, but because how small the map is. Because of the short rush distance by ground, Queen Roach aggression can be quite difficult to defend on this map. So we'll see if Dark relies on that again, or if he goes to something different. We shall see as we're loading in to Hard Lead. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Hard Lead, we have our South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg representing Talon Esports, forcing the ace match. It is Dark. And spawning in the top left hand corner, we have his opponent, we have the Red Protoss. Currently teamless, but forcing Dark to the ace match, pretty damn impressive so far. Can he go the distance? Can he bring him down? That would be crazy. That'd be wild. I'm here for it. It is Stats. Here we go. As this time, Dark does go for a hatch first. He's just going to go hatch gas pull. Nothing too crazy here out of Dark. This time, he is not going to be disrupted. He's not going to be intercepted by this probe. And we'll be able to once again get into faster ling speed. This should be a hatch into gas, into spawning pool opener. Meanwhile, I imagine Stats is going to once again go into a Stargate, into a 3rd. Stats hasn't really deviated too much, and we haven't seen many, if any, Twilight Council openers out of Stats. Not saying he can't, but we just haven't seen it yet today, at least. We'll see if he does decide to whip it out. Again, I'm not opposed to Twilight Council openers. I'm not opposed to them on this map. They can work quite well. They have their place, whether it's into Glaive Adepts or into Dark Templar. It is all viable here. But we'll see where the pylon does get placed. It's typically, or traditionally placed here at the edge of the map for Stats, at the edge of the main base. We'll keep an eye out for it. Tato. Shaking my head. There it is. Pylon has been thrown down. Looks like another Stargate opener here by Stats. Meanwhile, Dark back at home, just going to be droning on up. Has a couple of safety lings. Ling speed is on the way. We pull out a gas immediately just to rush into it. Nothing crazy yet. We're just still easing our way into our openers. In towards the mid game. Now, Dark has been one to Ling Flood in the past, especially go mass Ling Bane into Hive Tech, into Ultras, but those are typically reserved for larger maps. Maps like Alcyone, maps like Radisson Station, if we ever get there. Radisson Station is a little bit different, but maps like Alcyone, maps like Equilibrium, that is where Dark is willing to play that style. I don't really see that happening here on Hardlead. I know with how small and congested it is. The gateway is thrown down. We're getting into our third base, and now the aggression is about to be upon us here. Stats once again moving out with his 2 adepts. Has to be careful. These past 2 games, he has been losing them, which is a little bit scary. So hopefully this time Stats is able to babysit them a little bit harder. Lings are amassing to deal with said adepts, and they are shading in. And we don't commit, thankfully. Lings, they were ready to pounce. Speaking of, Dark gonna try to hunt them down. Is moving out. Likewise, Oracle gets into the main base, gets 1 drone kill, gets a second, does get away. Not a bad start for Stats, keeping the Oracle alive, getting a couple of worker kills. Meanwhile, the Lings are going straight for the third base. They want the Adepts. They want them, and can we get them? We come in from both angles. A little bit delayed there with the surround, but it looks like we should have enough to deal with them. Good stutter stepping, though. Up! We hold! A clean defense by Stats. A bit of a blundered attack, and that was not worth for Dark. He bleeds out how many Lings? 8. 8 Lings for nothing. And now we build up to 4 Adepts. This is probably the best start that Stats has had all series. The best start here to game 3 as we move out for a counterattack with 4 Adepts with the Oracles. And we're looking for drone kills. Do try to head in. Good target firing out of Dark. Oracles threaten a backstab. Very fast lair by the... Oh my god. Sorry, my apologies. This was what, like a 420 lair timing? Nice. Very fast lair here from Dark. With a fast lair, we could go in a couple of different directions. Adepts, they do push in for a moment. Behind this, we do have a Twilight Council. There is no Forge, by the way. We're going up to 5 gateways. Blink is on the horizon. This does look like another 3-base Blink Stalker all in from Stats. This is what we saw against Rex, but with the fast lair, it's a Nidus all in. And I think the Nidus hits first. It's going to be a Link Queen Nidus all in from Dark. We're going to be sending everything across the map. Now, thankfully, because of the high gateway count, because of the 5-gate setup here, Stats, he will have some warpins available. But they will be vanilla Stalkers. Okay, now we go for the Forge. Forge is on the way. We have vision of the main base, and Stats, do we spot the Nidus? Will we spot it? There it is. It's on the way. Stats, he is within range. The gateway sees, but does Stats see? I don't think he does. Oh, I don't think he does. He's moving out. He's moving out with his main army. There we go. He recalls back home. The boys are being pulled, but the Nidus does complete. Yeah, Queens, they pop out. Do we have a transfuse? We do. We barely transfuse that Nidus. We keep it alive a little bit longer, but it has been focused down. And Stats, he's holding. Stats, he's cleaning this up. Queens are falling. Lings as well. The Nidus is denied, and Dark is losing everything. Ooh, and now he's droning. And now Dark is in danger. The scary thing right now is that Stats, he has the gateways. He can reinforce and push out and try to punish that third base. And Dark, can he defend? There we go. We have cannons and shield batteries just to defend. Stats should be pushing. Back at home, Dark re-droning as hard as possible. Temple Archives, Temple Archives. Infestation is on the way. We still have more Lings. Okay, so as Stats is moving out, Dark wants to counterattack. Wants to try to push in. But he runs into the army. Yeah, was hoping that Stats was already moved out. At the same time, Baneling run by is being set up. Now, Stats is in a better position. Stats, he is in a lead. But if this Baneling run by gets in, you know, if Dark is able to eviscerate an economy, eviscerate a mineral line, then Stats will be in some trouble. Dark is thinking about it. He's going for it. Center base is being taken. Dark moving out with his Lings. Banelings are waddling in. Dark hoping to distract the army with the Lings. Does keep the attention towards the left-hand side. Banelings are waddling in. And Stats, he does react. Whew. He does pull back in time. Stalkers, they come in. They shut down the Banelings. At the same time, Lings, they collapse on the forward base. But a big stage trap goes off. We catch the Lings. We defend the fourth. Stats is still in control of this game. He is still in control. We have Lings being peeled off here towards that mineral line. But again, there's a shield battery. There's Stalkers. Lings are going down left and right. And Dark, he's rushing into that hive. Hive is in production as we speak. It's about to finish. But what can we do with this? We can head towards Adrenal. We're still focusing on Ling production. We can maybe head towards Ultras. Again, we haven't taken additional gases. We're still only on 4. Still only on 4 gases. There's Adrenal. Yep, it is going to be Ultras. So Ling Bane into Ultra. I mean, this is all we can afford. Like, we can't afford Roaches. We can't afford Hydras. We're just building up towards eventually Ultra Tech. It's a risky maneuver. I mentioned before that Dark is fond of this on larger maps, but this wasn't his initial plan. This is a transition. This is what he's forced into instead. And the problem with this is that we are vulnerable until we get into the Ultras, and we don't have as much momentum as we need. Like, the reason why this can work is that when you go mass Ling like this, you deny the 4th. You deny the 4th, you deny the 5th. You delay the economy, and you slow down the Protoss. But Stats hasn't really been slowed down. Overseer attempted a Nidus into the main. Changeling gets shut down. Ultras are on the horizon. Stats securing his economy. Getting into double robo production. Oh my god. Stats, have we scouted? We haven't seen the tech. We haven't seen the Ultra Cavern or the Hive. But we do have double robo immortals on the way. Even though Stats doesn't know what's happening, he's still reading this so well. I mean, he sees the mass Ling. Whether it's Lurkers, whether it's Ultras, Immortals can do well for themselves. And that's exactly what we need right now. Immortals are on the way. And the other good answer would be Skytoss, but Skytoss will take too long. I feel like if we tried to go into Skytoss now, the Ultras would hit first. The Ultras would hit first instead. Here we go. Dark just shutting down all these rooks. Getting into his Ultras. How many Ultras do we have? We have 4 Ultras, soon to be 5. Kindness plating, I believe, is done. We only have 1. We're working on 2 upgrades for the Ultras. Lings, they try to hit the center base. Big stasis traps go off once again. Main army rotating over. The Ultras have been revealed. For the first time, Stats, he does get eyes on the Ultras. Just some Ling Bang being set up towards the right-hand side as well. Stats in position. Like, so far, the defensive stats are looking good. Rocks are being knocked down. Stasis runs out. Ooh, a lot of Lings go down. Banelings, they roll into Archons, and yeah, they cannot push forward. Dark, he's setting the defenses at every base. Looks like finally he finds a weak point. Banelings, they need those worker kills. They're going for the mineral line. They try to bust through those Stalkers, and it looks like we will break through. Banelings are getting in. Big connections. 24 probes go down. Again, Stats a little bit late to reinforce, a little bit late to rotate over. 24 probes fall, and it looks like we have done it. We've broken through. We're getting on top of another base. Knight Templar. One Knight Templar goes down. We get a couple of feedbacks. Ultra's being forced back. But again, Dark, he's instantly remaxing and is going to keep the pressure up. Dark has no intention of slowing down. Stats! Late reaction. Banelings, once again, they get in. 5 more probes. Whew. Could have been so much worse. Could have been worse as Lings Unburrow, Bailing's Unburrow as well. And we are pulling stats apart from the left, from the right. We get on top of the base. We get on top of the Nexus, and yeah, this 5th is not going to get up and running. Oh, it's so close to going down. It's so close, man. But Stats, he loses another 15 workers. And you can see Dark instantly remaxing and rebuilding. Is moving out. Again, Stats, he was so close. You could see how quickly things escalate, where if Stats were able to defend this 4th base, like, he would be in a much better position. He'd be able to maintain himself. Would have finished up the gateways and cannons on the left-hand side. Sorry, the shield batteries and cannons. As the Nexus has fallen. Again, one small chink in the armor is sometimes all it takes. One exposed point. As yeah, now we hit the center base. We catch an Archon. We get a couple of Archons. The Ultra, they come in from behind. We go first around. Storms are thrown down on Ultras of all things. The Ultras will be cleaned up. But that was a kill on that Nexus. We're down to 3 bases. GG gets called. It's just too much. And Dark will take the series 2-1. GG. Let's go. GG, well played. Dark, his initial Ling Queen Nidus all-in failed, but it did not matter as Dark was still able to, he was able to recover from that point. Stats had a little momentum on his side after the initial defense, but Stats never moved out. After the initial defense, if you remember, Stats, he was just turtling up back at home, building up his 4th, building and working on a 5th base as well, turtling up and trying to max out, which is definitely an approach you can take. The problem there is that because of his passivity, Dark was able to get away with his Hive Tech, drone up to 80, get his own 5 base setup, and tech up into Ultras. And Stats was almost able to defend, he was almost able to weather the storm, but we saw that one lapse in judgment, one hole in the armor here, one hole in the defense, was enough for Dark to start the ball rolling. Bailing run by in, kill the mineral line, we push in towards the left, towards right. Suddenly Stats, he gets pulled apart. He's just trying to respond, trying to deal with all these fires that are just being lit in all of his bases, and in the end, everything set fire, everything burned down. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations to Stats, sorry, to Dark, but a big shout out to Stats. A shout out to Stats because it is not easy going up against Dark, and hey, he almost took the series. He went to the ace match. He definitely was not looking bad at all. So again, Stats, he has been improving, and I'm really happy to see that the rate of improvement for Stats is continuing. You know, he isn't stagnating, he isn't you know, falling further behind or anything like that. He's catching up. He's catching up with a lot of these players, and I'm happy to see that. Big Stats fan. Big Stats. Do appreciate it. GG. GG. As Dark will advance on into the next round to face off against the best Protoss in all of South Korea. Again, the opponents do not get easier for Dark. Up next, Dark versus Hero. Let's go.